I just wanted to teach everybody something about your native plants in your area. So today I am here under the pine trees, and pine is something that is abundant in most of the United States. And here in eastern North Carolina, the most abundant species are loblolly pines and longleaf pines. And so the longleaf pines, if I remember, are on the endangered list, so we don't want to harvest those. The loblolly pines are actually the ones that are most abundant, and this is how I identify them. I'm sure there's other ways, but if you see this branch here, the tufts of pine needles are on the end of the branch. So you're going to look for the pines that have the tufts towards the end of the branches, and they're in little, let me get closer here. They're in little tufts of 3. So you see that where they're in little clusters of 3, and you don't want to ever harvest from young trees. Like there's one right here that is about head high. This is the top of it. So I'm going to leave that one. You're not going to harvest from the younger trees. You want to harvest from older trees, and I like to not harvest from the same tree. If I'm going to collect a lot, I'm going to move around to other trees. And this property is kind of in my neighborhood behind my house, and it's a nice little, wild area. So I can harvest here that it's not been sprayed on, it's not close to a highway. Those are all things you want to take account when you're collecting pine needles. You want to make sure that it's not in an area that's being sprayed or with pesticides and such. So pine, these fresh needles, I'm going to make them into pine needle tea. But you can also use a lot of different parts of the pine, like pine sap. That is, it's kind of like nature's Band-Aid. And when you're harvesting the sap, you never want to take all of it, because it is the Band-Aid for the tree. So it's protecting a wound on the tree. So you want to just harvest an area that would, be abundant in sap, just overspilling, and not take any that was actually protecting the tree. And what else can I teach you? Oh, so something that I have an app on my phone called iNaturalist, and that's a great way to kind of confirm what types of trees or plants are in your area, and it'll help you figure out what species. The only species that I'm aware of that you cannot ingest from the pine, the pine trees would be a yew type tree, so you don't want to harvest those. And I don't really know where those grow in the United States. Maybe up north, I really don't know, so don't quote me on that. But iNaturalist is a great way to identify your local plants. So you see what I'm doing. Since this branch I took off, I'm just taking the needles off. The springtime is when they're actually best in their phytochemicals, so you want to make sure that springtime really is the best time to be drinking pine needle tea. So you're going to collect some of these pine needles, and then I'm going to go inside and show you how I make fresh tea. Hi there, I wanted to show you today how I just harvested these pine needles, and I'm going to show you how to make some pine needle tea. So basically, I rinsed off all of these needles in some cold water, and I looked for, bugs and any spider webs and things like that. Anything that was left on these needles, I rinsed it all off and cleaned them really well, and I pulled out some that looked like, maybe they had damage to them. Let me see if I can find, there's one that had a little damage to it. I don't know if you can see that, but it looked like it had some spider damage to it, or mites of some kind. So I want to throw those away. And what a lot of people do is they leave them outside on a towel in the sun, and most often the bugs will kind of dissipate and crawl out of your herbs. So you always want to do that. I didn't do that this morning, but you can do it that way instead of rinsing them. So What I like to do as well is when I'm cleaning them, I basically take the woodsy ends off, you see that, so that I'm only left with my needles. Kind of, just take the needles, and then you're just left with needles. Some people cut them up and put them in, like a tea strainer or tea bags. You could do that. You can dry them in a dehydrator and save them for later, or you can have them fresh. Either way, they do taste great. They're kind of have a little citrus taste to them. And so you're going to just put them directly into your mug like that. And I like to do approximately 10 needles per mug. And then I fill it up with some warm water and a little honey, and then I let it steep for about 20 minutes. And then that's how I drink it. And I just made this one up here. This is a carafe with the rest of my needles in some warm water, and I'm going to put that in the fridge and save it till tomorrow morning. So it's not going to keep long. You don't want to leave it in the fridge for more than a couple of hours. So that I'll enjoy later. That's how I make pine needle tea. Feel free to go to my website to learn more about some of the things that I incorporate in my backyard and herbs and things like that. To learn more, www.StephanieWebb Consulting. Thanks.